Thank you, Dennis, and thanks everybody for being here. How many people in the room participated in the first campus budget session just a little while ago? So we got a really good basis. I hope that everyone who's watching and live streaming also, if you didn't listen to it live, that you do watch it later, because I think it was really an important foundation for the information we're going to be sharing with you. I want to say a big thank you to Dennis and the Extension Communications team for organizing the ability to do this live stream. The campus planned to do the budget forums, and I put my little hand up in a meeting. I said, well, what about all of the rest of our folks all over the state who are MU employees? And they said, well, that would be really hard to do. And I said, I know the people who can do that, and they did, and thanks for all of them for making that possible. And as Dennis said, we will be recording this, and it can be downloaded and shared with others, as well as a fact sheet. So I do want to say thanks for coming this morning. Thanks. It's good to see sort of all the familiar faces, some I don't know. I've really been thrilled, challenged, proud to be back with the Extension community for the last 6 weeks, serving in the interim vice provost role, and being your advocate, but also trying to be your spokesperson and listening to your needs and concerns at what can be a really challenging time. We have a couple of purposes for our session this morning. Obviously, the most important is to make sure that you as Extension employees have as much information as we can provide about what we know about the budget, what our plans are, how we're going to manage our share of the cuts and things like that. We want to answer the questions we can answer. Some of them we'll have to say we don't know or we can't answer that today, but we'll be able to answer it in the future. Certainly part of the purpose of the forum for those here in the room and those around the state live streaming with us is to listen to your concerns and questions, to just get a feel of what's on your mind so that we have a two-way dialogue. And I guess I think ultimately to engage the creativity, the passion, the great ideas that I know resides in this room and in the Extension offices around the state as we think about both how do we address our budget cuts that we're dealing with, but also how do we think about transforming, shaping Extension of the future so that we can do our job better and well, to serve the people who count on us. Rhonda Gibler, of course, is our Rhonda, but Vice Chancellor for the campus now, Chief Financial Officer. I thought she said something really important in her remarks. She said, this is personal to us because we may know people, we might be a person whose position is going to be eliminated, but it's personal because we have a duty to the people that we serve, who expect this university to be a great university, who expect Extension to be a great resource to them. So it matters to us because we are part of this community, but it certainly matters to the people of the state as well. So thanks for making the time to do this. And again, I want to thank our communications group for putting the technology together to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to start, I'm going to call on Callie Glascock, who is our budget director. Callie is going to walk through the Extension budget situation to make sure you have an understanding of how that fits with the campus budget. And then we'll do some general remarks, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm going to turn this to Callie next. And she said if she gets to waving her hands too much, to let her know, calm her down. Oh, I have to say, while she's getting her mic on, so those of you who are watching, I don't know if everybody, I put on one of my favorite pins this morning. I call this pin, this little girl, Bad Hair Day, and she represents the days when you feel frazzled and crazy and you're not sure what's going to happen. And I put her on to remind me that it's really not a bad day when I'm with my Extension colleagues. So there she is. Callie, it's your turn.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Am I good? All right. I think we need to all thank Joe for getting this put together and allowing the budget presentation from the campus to happen as well for our folks here and outstate. So yeah. And another thing I want to say about Joe and Tom Henderson, who's hiding in the back. I know you knew I had to call you out. They both want to be very transparent when it comes to the budget. They have pushed me in this area, and I really appreciate that, and it's a good thing for all of our Extension employees. I was hoping that, as Joe said, I hope everybody was able to watch Rhonda's presentation. Certainly, we are part of the MU campus, so we share in those challenges. We do have some unique challenges as well, which you'll hear about it. But I also think we have some opportunities because we have that statewide presence. Again, Joe will go over some of those as well. But One thing my presentation is mostly on going through the budget and how we put that together and how we plan and the resources that we have. We are very proactive, and we have been, and conservative as well. So I wanted to, I want to hit some of those points as well. So you'll see the first slide here is our budgeted sources of funding. So I'm gonna go through these slides fairly quickly because we want to leave a lot of time for questions, but I do want to expand on some of these. So this is what makes up our budget for extension. This is FY17. It starts July 1st of 16, and you can see it's preliminary. The budget is not finalized yet, but we are very close because we do have the assumptions now from the campus that Rhonda talked about. So the first line is the university general allocation. This is also referred to as appropriated dollars. Generally, the majority of this is state appropriations that comes through UM system to the campus and then is allocated to MU extension. So you can see that's 33% of our funding. Then our second highest funding for extension is grants and contracts. That is a huge number, $22 million, and we had been flat for several years, and you'll see in another slide I have that we lost some funds in a huge grant in the middle of a year. It really hurt that number, but it's starting to come back up. Those funds were restored. So that number is ticking up again a little bit. Our federal funding is, we call it capacity funding from USDA, majority of it from USDA. It is, it's 14%, it's over $10 million. The sales, service, and fee revenue, again, it's 10% of our budget. That is continuing education fees. We have some on the co-op side. A large number of that is from continuing education units. The next two lines are county funding, local funding. These funds do not come through the university, but it is critical that we have these local funds to do our statewide programming. The one thing I want to say, and I'll say it here so I don't forget later, the leadership has committed resources to the field, and they have held the field to some degree harmless, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, because they are committed to that structure, to that county-based structure, and us putting funds in the field leverage those dollars from the county. If we didn't put money in the field, the county wouldn't be putting money in. So that when I talk about leverage, that is one place where we certainly leverage, and we show it in our overall budget because that supports our overall statewide programming. The next line is, so we split that in two lines, the county council funds that they generate locally and the local county appropriations comes from county commissions. And another thing about that line is it has stayed relatively flat as well. Our appropriated dollars have stayed relatively flat over the last 10 years. So, and the local county appropriations have went up a little bit in years where we didn't gain any on our state appropriations. The recovery of facilities administrative costs, this is indirect or overhead that comes from grants that comes back to the university. We have comes back to extension. We have a lot of discussion about these funds. These in general are used, you can see, as part of our revenue base. So we include it as part of that. Sometimes it's looked at as extra funds and passed all the way down in total to the areas where the grant was awarded, but we use a portion of that to balance our budget. The other is generally carry forward dollars or cost dollars. I think you heard Rhonda talk about that. We also talk about reserves that we use to balance our budget because we just assume that we're going to have some turnover in a year, and we do. So that is used to balance our budget. And then we have gift revenue, and that gift revenue is what we can spend in a year as part of our budget. It's not, we have a huge endowment pool, but you can't access those dollars. This is the revenue that comes off of that and gifts that we get during the year. So we have a $78.6 million budget for FY17. In just 5 years ago, we were we were over $80 million. So you can see we are about $3 million down in the last 5 years, and obviously our expenses have went up and our buying power is going down. So this is, again, it's preliminary, but it's pretty close on what we know today. All right, this is just a pie chart of what I just went over. It's a little deceiving. The university general allocation is higher than grants and contracts, but so you can see this. These two slides plus another slide I'll get to in a minute. This is always on the web. We'll get this up as soon as we finalize the budget, so you can always go to the web and get this information. We also print out a double-sided budget sheet and talks about appropriated dollars and non-appropriated dollars, self-generated dollars that you're always welcome to ask for, and we can have available for our, with individuals you want to share it with. All right, I thought this was a good slide to show. When we talk about our resources, we have appropriated dollars and we have self-generated dollars. I'm just talking here about our general operating revenue. We refer to it as unrestricted, meaning we're getting state appropriations and federal appropriations. That we call them unrestricted, but obviously our federal partner expects us to use those resources in the manner that they have given them to us for, and the university also has expectations with the money we get. But you can see that we have $38.9 million in unrestricted general operating dollars. We have salary and benefits totaling $35.6 million. Just in our general operating fund with our unrestricted funds, we have 91.5% of our budget is in salaries. That's a big number. We are a people organization. If you watched Rhonda's presentation, they were about 80%, the campus is about 80%. They don't have the infrastructure that we don't have the infrastructure costs that they have. If you look across all of our sources of revenue, we're about 86% salary and benefits. So I think that's a good slide to look at. The E&E, $3.3 million, that doesn't, any of you that, most of you could look at that and see that it takes a lot more than $3.3 million to run this organization. So again, reinforcing that it takes all of these resources to fund this organization. This is a slide that we've showed several times. This shows the appropriated dollars, general operating dollars, we call them several different things, versus the self-generated dollars, the fees, the gifts, the grants and contracts, that type of thing. There's always something that causes us to have footnotes on all of these things. But in FY11, we had Mizzou Online. We didn't call it Mizzou Online, but we had MU Direct and CDIS. So we now have, when we lost MU Direct to the campus, our self-generated figure went below our appropriated dollars. In FY15, we were getting close and we thought we were going to cross, but we lost a huge amount from a grant, from one of our largest grants in the middle of the year. So it took those non-appropriated dollars down again. Some other things have happened and it's widened a little bit again, but you can see that it's still 53% is appropriated dollars and 47% is non-appropriated dollars. So it's still pretty close. Yeah, so that's the 79 million here. I just think it's good to show you that it takes all of our sources of funds for extension. And where we see the appropriated dollars, we obviously see being flat or being reduced. The non-appropriated dollars is where we can see some growth. All right, I wanted to talk a little bit about extension and our planning. Historically, extension has taken a very conservative approach to budgeting. So we do have some cost savings, we have some reserves, carry forward, we call it several different things, but I thought Rhonda did a good job of explaining what that means. Non-recurring resources. So we have used those resources to bridge some of these cuts we've taken in the past. and not even cuts. As our appropriated dollars stay flat, obviously our expenses are going up. So we have used those reserves, but we've still kept a healthy reserve because we think that's important as well. So it's always a balancing act on what is the right number, but we've continually doing long-range planning. We've thought about these things coming. We've budgeted for them. We've looked at them. Always looking at that. It didn't just happen because in January Rhonda was telling us that we were going to have less students. So we do coordinate with the campus budget office because we are part of MU Extension. We have had some growth in non-appropriated dollars. Grants and contracts are ticking up again, and our fees we are having some growth in the fee area as well. I did want to mention this. In the last 3 years, we have taken a $1.5 million reallocation, it's 2% a year, from the campus. So we've already been in these planning stages. So when we were doing planning going forward, we were planning on a 2% reallocation from campus and a raise pool. So this 5% is somewhat in line with that, with what we were planning anyway. So Joe's going to talk about some of these things, but we really have made some investments where we feel like we'll get a return on that as part of our planning process. Another thing that was very positive, and Tom was a leader in this, is we put some of our reserves into the investment pool, and we're realizing an annual income from that. It's called a quasi-endowment. So it's went right into, the revenue off of that went right into our general operating pool. All right, so the last slide, I'm going to talk about what our assumptions are for FY17 and a little bit about 18. And you will see all of these things that we've done here in that 17 budget that I showed you. We're taking a 5% reduction from our MU allocation, which is $1.3 million. We're assuming our federal appropriations are going to be flat. We have to plan for the FSLA changes. We couldn't ignore that could happen in, oh, sorry. Yes.
Yeah, you say it because I can't.
I'm like, Fair Labor Standards Act. Okay. Oh, sorry. I got the transpose the letters. So this would be a law from the federal government. Is law the right word? That any exempt non-hourly employees will have to make $50,440, or they would have to go to hourly and be non-exempt. So we certainly have to plan for this. It could happen in FY17. What has happened in the last couple of weeks is that there has been a recommendation that it could be $47,000. That is a difference in what we'd have to budget from $500,000 to $150,000. That's a huge swing. And so if that does happen, then the leadership will have to make some decisions on where that money is invested in other places. So, but that's a huge number that we had to plan for FY17. We didn't do, for the first time since I've been here, we did not do an across-the-board cut as we have in the past. That model is not sustainable, and I think you heard Rhonda say that as well. So we looked in the program areas, which when I say program areas, I'm talking about the CE units and our cooperative extension program areas. We looked at leverage. So they were getting, and I talked a little bit about that with the counties, they're getting a general operating appropriation, that MU allocation, a piece of that, and how well do they leverage that? Meaning they take those dollars and bring in more dollars through grants and contracts or fees or matching on grants, those types of things. So we did cuts based on, it was 3 to 4% based on how well program areas leverage their funds. The support units, some support units took a disproportional reduction. Again, no, we didn't do it across the board. 2 units took significant cuts. Again, another thing that hasn't happened since I've been here, every line was touched, every line was affected this year. That's how is the only way to make this work. So the leadership has been great to look at all these areas and come up with the best solution. Unfortunately, it's a large amount of reduction that we're trying to accommodate. But I will tell you that, again, I want to stress this, that we are constantly planning. And this, though it's a large number, this 5%, we have been looking at reductions. And then not just reductions, we're looking where we can grow and where are those areas where we can grow. So I think that's all of my slides. Do you want the next slide yet, or?
Let's save it. Let's just leave that up for now.
Okay.
So I do want to thank Callie. I think she's had a few sleepless nights worrying about this because she worries about you and what it means when these kinds of decisions have to be made. So I think I get to have, I'm not going to call it the bad news, but the reality check. So a couple things that Ms. Callie said, as part of the campus, we took a 5% reduction in our budget. One of the things that's been a little confusing to people is that our legislature this year said in their appropriation message to the university, they said, we want you to make sure that the University of Missouri Extension gets, and it was about $27 million. They wanted to protect us by making a statement. And we really, really appreciate that. And I do say to folks anywhere, if you speak with any of our elected officials, say thank you for recognizing that Extension is a valuable asset. But the stance that we really take is that because Extension is embedded in this university, because besides our appropriation that the university puts into the budget for us, we get so many other services and support that we aren't paying for because we're part of the university. Our benefits, some of our benefits offices, our risk management insurance, university legal. There are so many things. So we appreciate being identified and recognized, but we're not lobbying, and I'll say that we don't lobby, I'm sorry. We're not advocating that we be a line item. But we also want to say thank you to the legislators who did say we value Extension enough to do that. But we are part of the broader university, and when the total university is strong, Extension is stronger too. So as Rhonda shared with us and Chancellor Foley, Interim Chancellor Foley, there are concerns on budget adjustments that are going to have to be made over the next several years. The good news for all of us in Extension is that with great leadership from Tom Henderson, from Bev Coberly, Joy Millard, all of the leadership team, Callie, they've been looking ahead and thinking about how are we going to be prepared for this. Well before the campus announced the 5% cut, our team, our leadership was saying, how does Extension prepare itself to respond? So, and as Callie said, we, because of your great work, the great work of people in this room and listening around and others, we have generated reserves. We have reserves that we can address some of the financial issues that are coming up. So we're not in a crisis, but we are in a time of budget adjustment. I've got to look at my notes and see what Callie, would you flip to the next slide? So I guess what I have to do now is cut to the hard news, the troubling news, is we are going to need to reduce about 21 FTEs from our Extension workforce. And I wanted this slide to be up because I think sometimes folks don't realize how many of us there are, because you look around this room and it looks fairly small. But when I say full FTEs, I think most people know this, but that means full-time equivalent, because we have a lot of people that might do part-time or combinations to come up. So we have different individuals, but the full-time equivalence is the number of actual positions that we have. So as you can see on this slide, we have about 775 FTEs around the state. Most of those, I looked up the numbers, about 59% of that are out in the field. The balance are on campus. Some of those are academic titles. Our regional specialists out in the field are academic titles. On campus, then we have I think it's about 17% of our campus titles, our FTEs are academic. And we're going to share this, by the way. This will be in the handout that we'll make available to you as well. And all of our other positions, which is support, administration, every kind of our HR, our personnel, our budget and fiscal, our ETCS, our communications is about 24% there. So of these 775 positions, we are going to have to reduce 21 FTEs. 10 of them are going to be from campus FTEs. I think most of those people who are in those positions have already been notified that their positions being eliminated. There are 11 regional specialist positions that are going to be eliminated. We're asking regional directors to have conversations with the specific employees within the next week, so that then there could be conversations with our county councils letting them know. While it's still less than 21 is less than 3% of that total, we still know that it is painful and difficult. It is people's lives, and those are tough conversations, and we appreciate that those are going to happen in a compassionate way. We will be, in some cases, the regional specialist positions that I'm going to speak about those for a second. A few of them are currently vacant, but there are some where there are people in those chairs, and there will be conversations with those individuals. And I cannot name those today because that has to be a personal, individual conversation with those positions. We'll then be working on some communication strategies with our extension councils and other stakeholders to make them aware. The affected individuals will have opportunities for counseling with our HR offices. We'll try to provide support to them based on their unique role and the position that they hold, the length of time that they may continue employment. It's not easy, but that is what's going to be happening, and we hope to have all of those conversations completed no later than June 1. Yeah, I get to be the bearer of the bad news, and I am sorry to be the one, but I'm also heartened by the folks in the room. So another question I know is going to come up is the hiring freeze that we have in place. We're following the campus's lead on that. We are hoping that after we finish this reduction and we have a very clear picture of our budget situation for FY17, that we will unfreeze and start to fill vacant positions. So, but those will be determined through a through a strategic process with our regional directors, program directors, continuing ed directors, campus unit leaders, what will be unfrozen and when. But we're hoping that we can do that. I'm hoping as early as mid-June to start that. And I should say that some positions are currently being filled, and we were able to fill those because they were funded by grants or contracts or other sources. You know, when Callie talked about the self-generated revenue, those are the kinds of positions that we can fill because we know that the dollars are behind them. But we did not want to fill positions that relied on just our recurring appropriated revenue until we knew what was going to happen about that. And of course, I think today is the final day of the legislative session, and we know what the state has done for us now. So the picture is clearer, and now we're moving forward. I'm looking down at my list to see. One of the things we are doing is asking all of our folks to look at what we're calling program coverage, specifically to our positions around the state, but also our campus positions. What are our priority goals? How do we ensure that we, the extension employees who serve the people of the state, and I would also say we serve the nation and the world through our web presences and other tools, how do we make sure that we have the right combination of positions, of specialties, of expertise, so that we can do the job that we need to do to fulfill this mission, so that we can also be forward-looking, so that we're thinking about, yes, we know what extension looks like today, but what do we need to look like in 5 years? How do we build the processes, the plans, the goals, the right people and the right structures, so that extension continues to be vibrant and doing the job that we've always been about, helping people improve their lives. So we are asking our program directors, CE directors, regional directors to think very strategically about that. I also want to say we're looking to the future at the same time. One of the chancellor spoke about strategic investments. Extension is taking some of its cost dollars, and this was the vision of Tom Henderson and again the leadership that I mentioned earlier, to say we're going to create what's called right now it's called the Enterprise Initiative, but we've added Kyle Flynn. Kyle, are you here? Where's Kyle? Kyle Flynn has joined us as our e-commerce leader. Mark Stillwell is working on the e-learning. Dennis is working with our team on the web and communications presence. And the point about this initiative is that how do we build a customer-friendly way to find extension and to get access to all of our great resources so we help and market and cross-sell and so forth. Tom was the one I heard say it first, is we want to be the Amazon of learning so that people come to us and find all of our great resources, and we do a better job of generating revenue, but also serving our customers. And I say our customers in Missouri, but I also mean around the world. Some of you know that I had a chance to work with 4-H programs in Africa for several years as a part of my work with the National 4-H Council. And when I was there, they're like, how do we get your stuff? Your stuff is so good. Can I go online? Where do I find it? Can I buy it? Where? And they want what we have, and we have the best stuff in the world. And I mean us. But we have to figure out how in the future we make that best stuff available to more people, more customers, and we do it in a way that generates that self-generating revenue, that even when our state and federal appropriations are flat, we are able to keep growing the service that we provide. So that's, I think, we're not sitting here saying, oh, woe is us. We're going to invest in this strategic initiative. We're using our cost dollars to do it. You'll be hearing a lot more about it, but it isn't just gloom and doom. It is about the future. So I'm just going to give you, let's stop. I have a couple of closing remarks I want to make, but let's stop and do questions now. And the floor is open. If you have a question here in the room, please come to the mic and identify yourself. And Laura is also going to be using live streaming. And as you can see, those who are watching, you can send your question to insider@missouri.edu, and we'll start taking those. And I'm not surprised to see Van coming up as the first one. Come on up, Van. But introduce yourself so folks will know who you are.
Okay. Thank you, Van Ayers, University of Missouri Extension, Stoddard County. And I was at the retirement meeting yesterday, so you know where I'm going in a couple of years. We have, 11 cuts, is that correct, coming up?
11 regional specialists and 10 on campus, which are some faculty, some administration, some support.
Okay, the 11 is inclusive of some of those on campus?
No, it's 11 regional and 10 on campus.
Of those, how many are you getting through attrition?
I don't know if I can answer that right now. I'm looking at Bev, and she's because there are individual personnel conversations to be had, and I can't really answer that at this moment.
Are you going to include some of them possibly going to be some of the open positions at this time?
It is, yes.
They're in the field?
Some of those 11 will be currently open positions.
And are you going to split this up evenly between all the regions? So 11 divided by what, 8 or 7 is whatever that.
Back in the old days, 21 or whatever it was, but some of us have been around long enough to remember 21 areas or however many it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
So Bev, do you want to come answer it, or do you want me to take it? I'll put Bev on the spot. Okay. So what we asked, and that's a great question, we asked our program directors from the 5, what we call still historically cooperative extension areas, and the regional directors to look at the regional specialists and to say, if we have to make cuts, what cuts where would you identify the positions? And then they overlaid that to say, where was there congruence between what the regional director said, if I have to give up a position. So they are fairly evenly spread across the 5 positions, and they're fairly evenly spread across our 7 regions. It's not perfectly even because of looking at, again, program coverage, priorities, some ideas about new program models, trying to share as best we can, but we didn't want to just say, you get one. We wanted to be more strategic about them.
Okay, have phone calls already been made to those?
No, Bev is giving me this, no. We've asked regional and I'm looking for Shelley and others, the regional directors who are here in the room, to get that completed by next week sometime.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Van, good question. Questions in the room? Come on up, anybody. Or Laura, do we have one?
Yes, I do. How and why does the FLSA ruling that will change some of our people from exempt to non-exempt result in increased cost to extension? Are these employees going to receive increases in pay, or is it an administrative cost?
You want to do that one, Callie?
Is this microphone on? Okay. We will, our faculty, we feel like they are exempt and they need to stay exempt as a faculty position. So those individuals that are below that level will get an increase, either to the 50,440 or the 47,000. So those are the increased costs. We have some on campus. Some, the reality will be that people that are exempt right now will go to hourly, and there won't be an increase in that case. I don't know, is HR want to expand on that? Joy?
No.
What you said is correct. Okay.
Yeah.
You think that answered the question?
So there will be some people who receive salary adjustments to be able to keep their salary at or above the level that they would, I'm looking at you like you answered, Laura. That we
No,
did that too.
I was too.
At or above the minimum level to be considered exempt. And there will be some people that might currently be exempt who may be reclassified as non-exempt and will go to hourly. And some of this, the federal regulations have not gone into effect yet, and there's a lot of conversation and discussion about it has a huge, it's not just us, it's a huge impact for the full campus. For example, they were talking about graduate fellowships and other kinds of positions that have been below that 50,500, I think it is, and were considered exempt, but now would not be or would have to come up to that level. So it's the universities all over the country and many other organizations are saying, please, let's be more reasonable about this. Let's phase it in. Let's, but because it's jumping from 27 something to 50,500. It's a huge jump, but it could mean, and it should mean, I mean, we would love to give everybody more raises, and we know that there may be salary compression for some of our long-term employees who are, who won't be benefited by this adjustment. We hope to be able to address salary compression someday, and have made some efforts on it. I don't know, Callie, do you want to, I think some efforts were made on it last year, but we know it's not enough, but do you want to add anything to that?
For the field faculty, we did do a range adjustment. We increased the range last year, and along with individuals getting raises along that range, we also did a small compression raise as well. So we were already moving toward that, and it wasn't just because of FLSA. It was to try to be more competitive with the surrounding states, at least in the North Central region, for our field faculty.
And that cost is also inclusive of the benefits, not just salary.
Repeat what Diane said. Diane
said that the cost that we're budgeting and we're looking at includes the benefits as well. I mean, as you all know, or you may or may not know, 35% of, we have to add 35% for benefits onto your salary. So that's a huge number. And so the 500,000 is looking at, if it's the 50,440, the 150,000 is looking at if it goes to 47,000.
The number of people affected changes dramatically if it's the lower amount that is the standard that we have to come to. So that's one of those budget questions that we don't know the answer to at the moment, but hope to have, I think they're hoping to have a ruling this summer is what I understood. So, other questions in the room? Yes, come on up.
Hi, I am Leanne Woolery. I'm a state specialist for the Community Arts Program. And my question is around cost dollars that you were talking about. We submit a cost proposal each year to fund our program, the Community Arts Program, a team of 3 state specialists and 2 regional. So can you tell us when we will know whether that has been okay?
I'm so glad you asked that, Leanne. We're going to start looking at those this afternoon. We've been I think we've been kind of waiting. I mean, really, the shoes are just, some of the other shoes hadn't dropped until just recently. So they will be evaluated. Joy, I think the goal is to have them, or Joy or Bev or anybody who, right. So we will do our very best to evaluate and respond to them by June 1. It might be, we might have to a little bit wiggle on that, but.
So I could take that, if that decision hasn't been made yet, it would mean that our team is not part of the cuts of state or regional positions?
Well, cost proposals haven't been looked at yet.
At all, okay.
Yeah.
That's what Joe was saying today, we start looking at all opportunity to do that because we're looking at the rest of it.
So those who, and Bev's gonna come and hand microphone to, but so I would say you're,
Thank you so much. So the question about cost dollars is, we started that process and asked for, do you want to speak too? About the, we asked them to be submitted, and then we had to hold on them until we saw the overall budgeting process. And then, once we get those numbers out, then we actually are starting to begin. I think we have close to 62 cost proposals, and we're going to start looking. Some of those are just reports from last year who are not asking for additional carry forward money, or those that are new. So then today we'll start looking. We have, I think, two and a half hours to start looking at those cost proposals. The
and
deadline is.
you're wondering if any of your team is
It's
in
going to be
among the
cut.
21
Yes.
positions that might
Thank
be
you,
gone.
yes.
Is that the bottom line?
where I'm going.
And I would say that was not part of the 21. Would that be right? I don't know. I'm sorry. It's a great question, and I don't know the answer, Leanne. Let us get back to you.
Well, I think that.
Maybe Callie does.
Yeah. When we're talking about the cuts and what Joe is referring to, we were just looking at the recurring budget. That's what we needed to balance, and that's what we had to deal with. Now we will start looking at the cost dollars. So my answer would be no, because that is in the cost pool. We were strictly looking at recurring dollars.
Okay.
Not in the 21.
Not in the 21, that's good to know. So a follow-up question as we think about the future, and because of where extension is with budgets at this time, is there some process that specifically the community arts program, but other programs I know that are also funded through cost dollars, could follow so that we could be a GO on someone's budget?
You want to try it, Bev? Take it.
I'll take a shot at it. The cost dollar programs that result in the kinds of program that you have that results in the hiring of faculty or staff, they are put into place because they're accepted initially because it looks like a program that over time can become self-sustaining. And the question is how long does it take to be self-sustaining, or is that the right path to go down? And so I think your program is in the middle of that maturity cycle, and we're trying to figure that out too. And so you are in the cost proposals. That group is in the cost proposals we're going to discuss this afternoon. And some of the faculty you talked about, whether or not they end up in the, I don't think they're in the GO pools that we talked about for regional specialists, but the question is where is this project in the formation of maturing and those kinds of things? And that's part of the things we're going to talk about this afternoon in the cost proposals, is the proposals that come in as if they're recurring and continuing, is where are we on this trajectory? Are we moving to some place where they may become more self-sustaining? So that will be the discussion in hand this afternoon, okay?
Thank you, Bev. Come on up, Shelley. And then, Shelley, while you're coming up, let's take one more from the streamers. Laura, you want to have one?
Okay, yes. Bob Schulteis wants to know, why is Extension's budget expected to absorb funding cuts due to campus tuition and student shortfalls when Extension got no share of tuition funding when campus tuition and student numbers were going up in the past years?
We knew that question was going to get asked, Bob, so thank you, Bob. It certainly is a point of contention, I think, for Extension folks that we're not sharing in. You know, you saw the graph that Rhonda showed, and the tuition dollars were going up and the state appropriations were staying flat. I think what we do have to recognize, though, is that we share in the benefits of those tuition increases through the support that the total campus gives us. So we do share in the cuts, but we're also benefiting from the increased revenue that came in through more students. We might not have got more dollars in our extension appropriation, but we got better buildings, we got better legal service, we got better folks over in Total Rewards helping us. All of that stuff is part of what the campus does for us that we don't have to pay for in our budget line. So I know people kind of get contentious about this, but when the university does well, Extension does well within it, and I think that's an important message. Callie, do you want to add anything to that?
One thing I would say, when we were part of System, we did pay for space, we paid for IT, we paid for those services out of those appropriated dollars. Now that support, we don't pay that directly anymore. We're part of the campus, and that support is provided as being part of that campus. So there is certainly a cost to that, and we are benefiting from those services. We are, in my mind, we were sometimes treated unfairly when we were kind of in between system and campus has righted that completely. We are treated like every other college or division on this campus.
Yeah. Thank you, Callie. Thank you. Better explanation. Shelley, were you going to come up? Okay.
Shelley reminded me that on Tuesday at Regional Director, Program Director meeting, we actually will not be making those phone calls next week.
Okay.
Because we made the decisions on positions today, or on Tuesday.
Okay.
And we're running through the budget pieces this week. And then we're trying to make sure we get the words written down so that everybody's saying the same thing.
Thank you. You're right.
And so that's going to go out next Monday or Tuesday so that regional directors, program directors, CE director, everybody has the same set of words, and we have some plans in place about some of the things that are forthcoming. So the actual plan to contact people is that May
23rd to the 26th.
Is the
I think I
actual-
just
yes.
forgot what week this was, to be really honest. Like, where are we? So thank you for that correction. So I apologize. It will be, we will have those personnel discussions sometime by the week of the 23rd to the 26th, correct? Thank you for correcting that. I appreciate that. Other questions from the room or from the streamers? I like the streamers idea. I like that.
Okay, I have a question, a follow-up question about the FLSA. In regards to that law, it's requiring them to make a little over $50,000. How will that affect those employees who have been here 15 plus years and are only making $50,000?
That is the compression issue, and we will certainly look at that. Obviously, we have limited resources, and we will be required to bring these folks up, our faculty. So we certainly want to be fair, and we will try to address that within the resources we have. And we did that when we did the range, so I see us going through that same process. But I can't, specifically answer it today.
I think, again, the intent is to address compression. We would like to make sure that everybody gets fair and equitable raises. We're going to have to get through some of this budget challenge time before we can start thinking about serious raises, and compression goes along with that. So wish we had a better answer. Other questions in the room? Dave, come on up.
Yeah, I've got a question that came up in the last session, but relating to sort of repairing the university's image outstate. What specifically is being considered relative to news and information, both from campus as well as regionally, that could be done or at least considered to help with that process? And I guess what engagement might state staff have as well as regional in that process?
And your name was?
Dave Patterson.
Thank you. I knew that. So as a super question, I think the campus has several strategies in mind, and extension I think, needs to be part of those strategies. I know that just to be perfectly honest, our own extension communications and marketing group was one of the units that has fewer positions. We're asking them to look at how will they be able to help us position ourselves strategically for the future to keep communicating about extension, telling the story, providing the news stories. I know that there are some concerns about that, Dave. But let me share a couple things that I think are sort of creative. We have reached out. Is Jo Britt Rankin still here? I don't see her. She was here. Some of our team has already reached out to the admissions department this week and said, how can MU Extension help you with admissions? We are in every county. We have people who are loyal university employees and loyal alums, and we can help tell the story. And so trying to build a stronger partnership with admissions and recruiting as a way to let us tell the university story through our local contacts, our relationships, which are so strong. I'll just tell you, and Tom Henderson's in the back, when the legislature was talking about the really devastating cuts to the university, the government relations folks said, the extension people are the white hats. Extension is the white hat. You helped save us from this difficult challenge. So I think we'll continue to work with our government relations. We'll work with admissions. We'll work with campus communications. They are planning a new, I would say, image marketing branding campaign for the university that talks about our strengths and our uniqueness, and we're working with our own communications and marketing folks to look at how we better tell the story. So, Bev, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to add to that. The State Extension Council is in town, and last night they had a very in-depth discussion about what could they do to help us with image and how could they help better understand what messages need to go out. So we're trying to capitalize not only on our faculty and staff, but on the resources we have outstate. Another thing that's been done is they've opened up, we have a council to campus where they bring council members to campus in the summer, and they've opened up more registrations for that so we can get more people on the MU campus so they can really see it's a safe place and to understand better about the great research and the great things that happen here. So it's multiple strategies would be how I would see it.
And I have asked Dennis and Joy Millard and Tracy Feller, who is our constituent relations leader, who is next door with the State Extension Council, to put together a communications plan for us for the balance of 2016 for sure, because we have so many things that we need to be listening and talking and dialoguing with each other and being transparent. This is the first step, and I think there will be a number of other efforts. So we know we need to do a better job of talking and having two-way communication, not just one way. So I am looking at the clock, and those of you who came to the first session, been in here since 8 in the morning, and those who are at your desk watching and listening, I know you probably read your email while you did this, but it's okay. But we're just glad if you were able to be with us. I want to close with a couple things. I will remind you that the live streaming has been recorded and will be available. If others from your partners and peers and so forth didn't get to see it, I'd encourage them to watch. There will be a brief fact sheet that we'll share. If you didn't see it already, the campus has done, a visual aid here, has done a really nice budget talking points fact sheet that is now available that answers the frequently asked questions, and so we'll be doing some things like that as well. I just want to say a couple things about what can we do now, because I think, and Rhonda, of course, Rhonda said it so well. Oh, thank you. We have to remember that, yes, this is a tough time, but we are still a great institution, a great resource to the people of our state and to the nation and the world. And so some things that I encourage all of us to do now is, if you can, be an advocate. Communicate and express thanks to our legislators, our county commission, the donors, the partners who've stuck up for us and said extension matters, it's important. I also want to remind folks, if you don't know the answer, if you can't find it in the budgeting talking points, if you can't find it on our fact sheet, ask the question and let us try to get the facts for you, rather than sometimes in a big distributed organization like ours, especially all over the state in every corner, if we're not hearing something, we sort of start filling it in. So please get the facts and share them. And I just want to make a plug for a great resource, and again, another visual aid, not exactly easy to see, but if you have not accessed and used the district data, the county fact sheets that the university system creates every year that shows the impact of the University of Missouri on every single county in the state. This is McDonald County. I picked it out because it's a long way from here, and they've been writing me letters. Thank you, McDonald County. I appreciate your great support and advocacy, but it talks about how many employees, how many graduates, how many people from this university, how many extension contacts. We need to tell people that we are in your county and your community, and we're the university, and we are here for you. So if you haven't seen these, go to the system website and look for district data sheets and get yours. So be an advocate, get the facts, encourage folks to come, for those out of state, encourage folks to come to the Council Campus event, because we are going to equip them to be advocates to go back and tell the university story as well. I would say again, our goal is two-way communication. So if you've got a question, talk to your regional director, talk to the program director, talk to the CE director, talk to one of us. Just let us know what you're thinking, and we may not always have the answer you want, but we do want to know what the questions are, and we will try to respond. So let's keep our dialogue going. I think it really is a time for us to be thinking entrepreneurially and creatively about how are we going to shape the extension of the future. I've been with this organization enough times to have been through this before. How many of you have been through one of these budget times before? A lot of us have. Some of us haven't. I remember the time we had to cut 25% out of the budget, and we got through it, and we found ways to be creative, and we grew our own revenue, and we started to look at what is it extension is going to look like now. It doesn't look like it did at the turn of the century when it started, and it shouldn't look like that next year either. So yes, there's pain, and I know that this is a tough time as we have colleagues impacted, but we are still a vibrant, strong organization with a mission to do. So we have to be creative, we have to start thinking about how we solve the problems, we have to talk to each other, and we have to keep doing the great work that we're doing. So with that, we will close, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you.